We're in San Bernardino at an art museum known as RAFMA on the campus of Cal State San Bernardino. All right, so we are in the art museum. I'm here with Andreas. So tell us a little bit about this Egyptian art that we're gonna see.
Okay, well this is actually the largest permanent display of ancient Egyptian art on the West Coast, and we're located on the campus of California State University, San Bernardino. And a lot of our Egyptian objects were donated from a donor who was local but has since moved away since he's now retired. And many of the objects are donated from him. Some of them are still on temporary loan, and we do have one really cool object that I'm going to show you that we purchased on our own. So
this is awesome because I had no idea there was an art museum in the Inland Empire that had Egyptian art at it. And you're saying it's the largest permanent display of it on the West Coast?
Yeah, on the West Coast, west of the Mississippi River. This display actually takes up about a fourth of our gallery space, and we have 7,500 feet of exhibition space here in the museum. We do temporary exhibits that we kind of show and transition year round, and they're mostly, they range from ancient to contemporary. They're mostly contemporary, so that way we can give people who have that contemporary feel also something as well, but this stays on permanent display, and it's about a quarter of that space.
Okay, so cool. So can we walk around and start looking at things? Like, first of all, I'm curious, which is over your shoulder right here, and we have a light. Just want to make sure everybody knows at home. It's the lighting's very dark in here for a reason.
It is. It's very dark in here. The pieces are very delicate. They've survived over thousands of years, and we need to be careful. And that's kind of one of the reasons why this donor in particular wanted to house the collection here, which is one of the reasons why collections are housed in museums, is so that way the museums can take care of the pieces and make them last just that much longer. So.
And we come in here with this big bright light where we're going to have stuff on it.
Yeah,
so.
But you can still read, and there are lighting on the labels and things like that.
So what is this that we're looking at right here?
This is one of our really cool, one of our largest pieces is a relief fragment depicting the procession of the gods. And this is really cool because not only is it one of our largest pieces, but there are things about this piece that you don't really understand unless you see it in person.
I mean, just to see this, because this is like, what, 12 years old, 14 years old?
This is actually made in the Ptolemaic period, which is
20 years old.
304 to 30 BC. So it's actually
old.
It's a little old.
Just a little old.
We do have pieces that are much older than that.
Well, let's go see them. All right, so I see a lot of pots over here, a lot of them. Wow.
Actually, some of our oldest pieces are right in these cases over here, and these are what are called black-topped jars, and they're from the pre-dynastic period, so now we're dating back to like 3,500 BC.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's 3,500 years before we started counting. So we're talking about 5,000 years old. The reason why they're black topped is not because they're painted as much as that the sand preserved the color of the clay. So.
And the sun burned the top.
And
For lack of a better term.
Yeah, for lack of the scientific process of it all, yes.
What about these pots over here?
These pots over here are jars, and a lot of the objects in here, the ancient Egyptians, they had daily objects, and not like us where we make an artwork that's different from the bowl we use or the pot we use. And so we display these, and it is still art because their art was what they used. It was kind of, it was a matter of making what they used beautiful. So this is kind of a display of that, as well as kind of exhibiting some old artifacts as well. This entire section is actually pre-dynastic pieces. So.
Wow. And I call them pots, and I guess they're not called pots.
They're called jars.
Oh, what do we have here?
Here's a stela. It's a Middle Kingdom stela, and it would have been placed at the side of a tomb. Mm-hmm. So kind of like when you go to a tomb now, or a cemetery nowadays, and you have the little plaques on the floor that kind of explain who it was and loving father. This is something that would have been placed at their tomb. Of course, is in way more detail. And the really cool thing the really cool thing about this piece is that it's in color, and the color is intact. And there's not a lot of pieces out there that are in color. If you really think about it, you could just imagine how vibrant this would have been in the day and age. But the color has stayed intact here. And to think that we have so many pieces that are just like this is kind of an amazing thought. over here, if you don't mind,
No,
I really want to
please.
show you this piece because this piece is really impressive. We actually received this just recently, maybe a couple years ago, from a museum out in Claremont, and it's a mummified hawk. So
This right here.
this
There's
right
a-
here, yeah, it's a mummified hawk. We had to have some conservation done on it, and then we put it promptly out on display because it's just, I think it's kind of an impressive piece. Considering that the Egyptians didn't mummify just people, they mummified animals and things that meant something to them, so that way they could have them in the afterlife. And that's just kind of an example of that. Although that might have been a votive, so it might have been just kind of done for fun.
Wow. So is it safe to say that this is probably one of the only mummified hands in the Inland Empire?
Yes, that is safe to say. That is very safe to say. And in fact, the mummified hand is so old. It's approximately 1400 to 600 BC. So that's before we started counting again. Like I said, so it's a yeah.
You know what's amazing? I mean, seriously, obviously the piece itself is amazing, but that material that's around it has actually lasted that long.
Exactly.
It's deteriorated, but it still lasted.
Exactly, which is really cool because if it hadn't deteriorated, how would we have known that they actually put rings before they mummified people, or they put jewelry on people, before they did the mummification process? It is really interesting. If you come in and you actually take a side glance, you can see the bone fibers, and so it's kind of it's
Yeah.
kind of creepy, but it's really cool too.
I'm staying on this side. That's why I'm like, yeah. Does everybody get a tour guide like I'm getting right now?
Actually, everybody gets a better tour than you're getting right now.
Wait a minute. I'm not getting the good tour? This is great, actually. I'm enjoying myself. Oh, wow.
So this right here, this is our coffin lid. Again, it's another impressive piece. It's one of the only pieces that the museum has acquired on its own. And we know the name of the person because we have, thanks to the Rosetta Stone, have been able to decipher hieroglyphics. And so we know that this man is named Neter-Enab, I believe is how you pronounce it. And we know it's a man because of his face is darker, and the men were portrayed darker than the women because they were out in the fields working, so they got more sun. So that's how we know it's a man. And we do know other details about him that you would learn if you came to the museum.
Yeah, wow, that is beautiful. So this is the only piece in here that you said the museum purchased?
Yeah, I believe it's the only piece that we have actually purchased. A lot of our pieces have been donated.
Well, that's a very impressive piece. All right, where am I going now?
This piece right here in the middle, and this is Priest Imhotep, and that's kind of a familiar. I don't know, some of our tours of children that come in, they're like, "Oh, Priest Imhotep from The Mummy, the movie." I don't know if you've seen that movie. If you have, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then
You see the look on my face? That's a very nice piece.
It's a beautiful piece, and it's actually probably better that you didn't, because you're not you're not tainted by the thoughts that he might have been some magical priest. He was really cool. He was really a neat guy. He actually invented the step pyramid.
This guy's pretty important.
He's so important that he eventually became a deity. Because he was not just he was an architect, he was a scientist, he was a medicinal doctor, so to speak. So he eventually became his own god because he was so important. And the fact that we have a statue of him here is kind of impressive.
That's very impressive. Apparently, I need to go see more movies. I don't know. All right, so I'm
But
following.
like I said, the Mummy is probably not a good portrayal of who he really was. Over here is kind of a neat case. We have some shoptis. We actually have a lot of shoptis. Shoptis were what the Egyptians believed to be servants in the afterlife. The more shoptis you had in your tomb, the more things you didn't have to do in your afterlife because they would do them for you.
Wow.
But what I think is really cool is we have some game pieces here. And right next to that, we have what's called a sistrum, which is a musical instrument. And some of the pieces in here, they're little statues of the god Bastet. And Bastet was a musical god, and she played the sistrum. So right here, we have an actual sistrum that would have been played by somebody.
Wow. If they want to learn more about how to get out here and how to visit the museum, where would they go? On a website?
Yeah, we do have a website. It's http and it's museum.csusb.edu.
Okay.
And then we also have a phone number that you can call. It's 909-537-7373, and that'll take you to a line that'll just tell you just about what we have on display and how to get out here and things like that.
I had no idea it was here, and it's here in the Inland Empire in San Bernardino. This is awesome. I thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming out and seeing. And there's all kinds of pieces that you didn't even get a chance to see while you were here. And I just wish that you can come back and everyone can come back and see what we have to offer.
Okay, seriously, was she not a cool tour guide? Come on, good. She's awesome. Tell me, like, oh, you did great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.